Going to call to order the Monday, March 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Jersey Shore Area School District Board of School Directors. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Bringard. Here. Mrs. Cummins.
Here.
Ms. Edwards. McDonald.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Ms. Kemler.
Here.
8 members present, 1 absent.
And she's supposed to be connected
I
somewhere.
believe Mrs. Edwards is online. I don't know if she can hear us. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ulmer?
I'm going to recognize Mr. Jean to bring our students forward.
Good evening, Board. It gives me great pleasure to introduce 2 students, 5th grade students from Salisbury Elementary School. And can I have Cole Jordan and Charlotte Lovell come up and join me in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we will have communications. Dr. Ulmer.
I want to recognize Mr. Enders to discuss a follow-up letter we received about our vote a couple months ago about cyber charter athletic participation.
So, September the 9th, I provided the board information regarding athletic tuition rates. We were charging cyber charter school for one of our students that's attending Commonwealth Charter School to participate in one of our athletic sports. At that meeting, I said there was a dispute regarding the tuition rate. We were charging $1,682.76. The charter school did their calculation and they approved a tuition rate of $399.89. The board has approved the tuition rate for that we charge the charter school. The charter school sent us a letter on February the 18th. We had invoiced the charter school back in October 21st, 2024 for the tuition rate. We had to go and send a second follow-up letter dated December the 10th, 2024 that Dr. Ulmer had signed, stating that they were still in arrears on the invoice. They paid us on February the 18th, 2025, and they'd only paid us the $399.89 that their board approved as payment. To go back to my original presentation, when this all started, the question I had for the charter school was, what right does your board have in determining what my board is allowed to bill you? That question I had again when I talked to them last week. That question continues to go unanswered. So that's where we lie. We have accepted and we will accept their payment as a partial payment on our invoice. We will go to the next steps on trying to collect the remaining amount of this invoice. I do believe this practice may start picking up. I will say I've never seen it in my career of students participating in extracurriculars, but we now have a second one that's participating in a spring sport with a different charter school, so we will be doing this again, and we'll see if it happens again next year.
So what was the invoice total?
The invoice total, we charged them $1,682.76.
Okay, thank you.
How many students we talking about?
This was one.
One.
Just one.
I simply wanted the board to hear the diligence of, and I had that conversation earlier today with, we're paying attention to the bills, we're looking at where our students are, we're asking the questions, it's not just this bill showed up, we paid it, move on. That's an example of Mr. Enders and his staff paying attention. That's it for that.
Thank you, Dr. Romer, and thank you, Mr. Enders. Under the President's report, we had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel. I also wanted, before we move on to committee reports, just wanted to take a moment to recognize a few retirements for some employees. The first one being Lisa Sinimo, 19 years of service to the district. Barbara Fidel, 32 years of service to the district. Gianna Riggle, 21 years of service to the district. And Gerald Micheltree, who is the crossing guard, 18 years of service to the district. And we just wanted to extend a thank you for all of your hard work. Next, we will have board representative and committee reports. I know, is Jessie on? Okay, we'll skip over her report in case she had one from the IU. And
Buildings and grounds, I have a short report.
Okay.
Update on the, I guess, Avis and South. As everybody knows, I think we decided to subdivide Avis into two parcels, school and approximately 35 acres of wooded ground. And we were waiting on some type of an appraisal from the realtor. I think that came in. So woodland that she gave us is running anywhere between, I'm going to say, I don't know the exact numbers, looking out the report, but somewhere between $5,500 to $8,500 per acre. So we'll have to, I don't know where we're going to go from here, sit down and come up with an amount and decide how we're going to sell it, whatever. But the Salisbury School, we were working with DEP there for a little bit, had some problems getting through to Lycoming County. So I think we finally made some headway with that. We're dealing now with Lycoming County Planning Commission. So, Mr. Wall, would you like to add anything to that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think that's basically what I heard from you the other week.
And I will, today, I took the email that Mr. Wall got from the realtor with the appraisal, and I snipped it and put it into my board update for this week, so you'll all see how she established the numbers that Mr. Brungard is referring to.
And I think we're moving forward with, get Mr. Hollick maybe to go through with the subdivision plan up there, or what's, nothing on that yet?
Not yet.
We're just waiting on that, okay.
Is the acreage attached to that estimate or?
Yes,
Okay.
there's acreage attached to similar properties, so you'll be able to see where that number came from and how it compares to what other properties have sold for in the region.
Can you add the acreage of the two parcels to your board update,
Making a note.
please? And thank you.
Acreage of, you mean the wooded area in the school itself? We're gonna, hopefully, we're gonna keep a buffer area in the wooded area there to the school district. So,
Was that it?
Yes.
Anything else?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Brungard. Next, we will have the student representative report.
I just wanted to go over some athletics that happened at the end of winter sports. 5 swimmers made state, sorry. The girls' basketball team made it to the first round of states, and both bocce teams made it to regionals, one taking 4th and one taking 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Ulmer.
I'm going to recognize Jess Lawson and Carrie Fry from the Community Services Group. If you want to come to the podium, I know that your presentation is prepared. While they're coming to the podium, just so that the board has an understanding, you do regularly renew our agreement with Community Services Group for the work that they do in our schools. They have counselors from their organization that do meet with our students upon parent approval. It does go through the parents' insurance most of the time, if they qualify. But we have renewed these multiple times since I've been here, but we've not ever had them come in front of us and talk about what Community Services Group does and what services they provide to our students. If you'll recall, not only counseling, but I think my second year here, we moved forward with an agreement with them for telepsychiatry. So if you have students that need psychiatric services, we do that through telehealth here with their staff, so kids don't need to leave school to do that, which is a convenience to less loss of instruction, but also for the parents. So I'll turn it over to you to talk about what you all do for our students.
Thank you. I'm Jess Lawson. I'm the clinical coordinator for the school-based program. And Community Services Group as a whole, like we're based in Williamsport, and we do offer a variety of services. We have psychiatry, individual counseling. We have adolescent dialectical behavioral therapy groups at the office. So a lot of things just there for the students. And then we're providing the school-based outpatient therapy at all the schools in the Jersey Shore district. We don't currently have the telepsych just because the psychiatrist we had left us, but I know that is something that when we can get it available again in the future, we'll definitely work on that. But in the meantime, we refer them to the Williamsport office for psychiatry. And then this is Carrie Fry. She's providing the actual counseling on site in the district.
Hi, I'm Carrie. I am available to all of the schools, and like Jessica said, it's school-based outpatient therapy. I do see the students during school. A lot of times, it's kids when parents have issues getting them to an office. There might be transportation issues. There might be single or non-single families that have a lot of kiddos in the home, and it's hard to get them to the office. Those are two of the big ones, but there's a lot of reasons. We go through insurance. A lot of the things I work with the kids with is emotion regulation's a big one. I help them with hopefully relieve their anxiety, obviously not decrease their anxiety and depression. A lot of times there's family dynamics I talk to them about. We also, if it's appropriate, offer family sessions. I've had parents come in. I don't do that a lot, and I try to do it at the end of the day. And that is what we offer, and it's going really well. I really enjoy it.
Does the board have any questions for them?
Approximately how many students are involved this year, for this year?
I see approximately 16 right now. I have a few, I'm going to open 2 new cases soon. And then I have a few more openings. So I have about 16. That's, I'm at 4 of the schools right now. I don't have any in Salatiesburg currently.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you both for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Okay. Next, we will have courtesy of the floor, where I see nobody has signed up to ask on agenda items tonight. So we will move on to personnel. Items to approve, A through S. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
I don't have any concerns, but I do want to say that it is great seeing alumni of the Caden Hess and Stanton Weston coming back and volunteering their time to the football program, as well as any of the other alumni that are volunteering.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Under curriculum and instruction, item to approve, letter A. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Okay,
I will just say, recall that this is on here because you approve anything that goes out of state.
okay.
And this is something he's been going to for quite a while. It's a normal trip that he,
Yes, it's normal,
competition,
but
actually.
Your policy says out of state and overnight has to come to you.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to buildings and grounds. Items to approve, A and B. May I
Motion.
have? Sorry. Yes, may I have a motion, please?
Motion. Second.
Before I ask for any questions or concerns, I just wanted to invite Mr. Wall up to the podium. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a real brief synopsis of walking through all of your tours with Site Logic. I know that you've built, I guess you could say, quite a big resume of items to be fixed, items to be replaced, things to be renewed over the course of several years to come. And I just wanted the board to have an opportunity to ask you any questions about that. I know you have in the past, you've answered a lot of the questions, but just one last opportunity, if you could just give us a brief synopsis, and then I will see if any of the board members have any questions for you.
Sure.
Thank you.
At Avis Elementary, that's one of these projects. There's 13 unit events out there. That's going to be the grant funded part of it. That's just in addition to the work we did out there last year to get that kind of, there's 17 unit events total out there. 13 is what we could cover with the money that was available. That's pretty much the extent of Avis Elementary's work for this summer. Moving to middle school, the 70 unit event replacement, that's essentially every unit event in every classroom in the middle school. Also with that project, there's air dirt separator from the chilled water and the heating side of the system. That'll definitely help the building manage any kind of dirt infiltration into the system rather than having strainers on each individual piece of equipment. That pretty much covers this part of the project for what we're doing right now. The next part of work we're kind of digging into right now is basically the brunt of the work is just getting everything in the mechanical room mobilized, switched out, and new at the same time. Because essentially all the pieces of equipment that are in there are as old as everything we're replacing throughout the building. So it kind of finishes that up, so we're all on one level playing ground with equipment at the end of the job. Other things in the project that we're looking at is in the gymnasium, looking for improvements in there, talking about a new gym floor, a lot of aesthetic things in the gym. The ceiling that's in the gym, there's like a drop ceiling like there is in here in the gym, not real conducive for gym class and things that go on in the gym. That's kind of under review, getting some things in line, pricing, what it's going to take to get to a number. That's pretty much, in the gym, there's also some padding, well, actually quite a bit of padding around the gym that's going to need to be added just for safety purposes. Moving out of the gym, cafeteria and library, we're looking at doing something different than univentilators in there. The univents, there's probably 9 or 10 in the cafeteria and probably 7 in the library. That's would be much more efficient and better for the sound in both of those areas if there were a rooftop unit. We're looking at putting rooftop units on both of those areas. Moving out of there, lighting, that's a big one. There's a lot of new lighting out on the market now to obviously save some money on maintaining and just the regular usage, electric that it uses. That would be throughout the building, classrooms, corridors, pretty much all the lighting would be replaced in that part of it. Yeah, that's kind of everything for right now that we're researching for prices.
Before we go further, I just want to recognize that Mrs. Edwards was able to connect, so she is with us. And I think the board needs to know, and Mark has been involved in this process, but also needs to know that it wasn't just we came up with a list and said, this looks good. Like, it was all with Mr. Wall's input of what needs to be the priorities in the building, what are the things that need to be addressed on top of external input, but also internal input. Do you want to speak to that process, Mark, at all?
As far as,
Like your input and how that was part of the process?
oh yeah, just like my everyday thing here, a lot of that goes into it. It's not just Site Logic doesn't send us a document that says you need to do this, and like we talk about, out of those 70 units, how many of those 70 units are we having problems with? And typically, we'll reach out to even staff. Are you experiencing any kind of loud univentilators, noises in your room, things like that, that's coming from that piece of equipment? And yes, I think we're doing the correct thing by replacing these at a good time, not just to wait till they don't work or we have issues with 1 or 2 of them. That's typically not how you would replace a system, is one by one or when they break or something like that. Well, the best bang for our buck would be to replace all at the same time. And the other part of that is, I think I might have mentioned this during one of our meetings, was different equipment updates every so often. The last thing a facility director would want is a piece of equipment from 2026, and then, well, 2 years later, you need to buy a piece of equipment from 2028, and those things don't typically work together, especially with the technology that's in some of this equipment now that we have. And one thing I did forget to mention on the unit ventilators is the controls. The hot, cold, all the controls will be replaced on these univents as well. So the controls is what controls timing, when they run, when they don't run, set points of the building. It's basically the brains behind how they operate.
Just a comment, I think you went over, in other words, we're replacing them all right now because like you said, it doesn't pay to have a contractor come back in and replace one next year and then move in. This way, everything's there and they can do a good job at the same time and then,
And there's a lot that goes into it, like you don't just tear out a unit ventilator from a closed system without balancing it properly, and that's not a wall, there's just a lot that goes into it, that it should all be done at the same time.
you know, the life expectancy of these things that were put in X number of years ago is way over 100%.
Yeah, we're 5 years past that right now.
Right, and again, for my own personal use, again, if I had one of these in my own house or a water heater in my own house like this, would I replace it? No, absolutely not. But when you're in a school setting like this, sir, we cannot afford to have one or two of these go down and have the school closed down, try and find one of these replacements, whatever, so.
Yeah, and
I
that's
mean-
typically, like, our heating systems, what we've done over the past 5 years, when we first started looking at doing renovations and purchasing new equipment, we started with the most important ones, boilers. We need heat. If we don't have heat, we don't have school. So our middle school has brand new boilers, our high school has brand new boilers, JSE has fairly brand new boilers since 2015, and now Avis has brand new boilers. So now we're just moving to the next part of what we need to replace.
And then just the gym floor, that's out a year or maybe 2 years.
Yeah, I don't think we could possibly squeeze that into a whole summer with all the other work that needs to be done in there to get to that point.
But the ceiling's gonna be replaced this summer.
Yeah.
Not only timing wise, but you don't wanna go in there and do all that work on top of a new floor.
Right. Right, that's the reason the floor is being replaced after the ceiling is demoed. I have a couple, maybe nitpicky questions, but these units you're talking about, I was reading all those whereases in the contract that you gave us. God, must be 40 of them. But they're all equipped with a disconnect or a kill switch, basically?
I believe so, but that's probably Marcus place on that.
Each unit by code has to have their own breaker to turn it off and on.
And they all run by electric, water, and no glycol in them, I
No,
guess?
the only school we have with glycol is the high school, and that's just in the heating system only.
And then I read in there that the savings per year minimal, but does that say like 557, I read in the contract? Is that per unit or per the whole 70 units, do you know?
I think they based that on one unit, if I recall.
It would make more sense, one
I think-
unit.
And the other part of this is we're gonna be going to a bigger filter too, which gives us better air filtration. We're going to a MERV 8 filter in these units.
Yeah, but
All the new equipment takes that filter.
You're not sure what that savings is for then? I don't want to put you on the spot, Mark, if you don't know what it is. But I mean, $557 for 70 units doesn't make much sense, it's for the whole units.
The univents are not gonna be your biggest cost savings. I can tell you that for sure. I mean, you're gonna have a different ECM motor that's gonna run a lot less power, but not a lot to make a big dent.
Right. And then
And the only other moving part, I mean, you have a blower and a coil, and there's not a lot to, it's not like it's a big cost savings to begin with. Yeah, I did just what we spend on lighting at the middle school alone between buying ballast bulbs. It was, I think, just $13,000 per year. We won't be replacing bulbs like we do now. The LED bulbs you don't replace like typical T8 bulb. We haven't done a lighting upgrade at the middle school since they moved to the T8s, which that was kind of the last phase of a lighting upgrade was the T8s.
all right, a couple other things here, the cost. I understand what your fees are, but I was reading into the closeout cost. What is the $162,000? What is that closeout cost? Is that at the end of the construction? Do you know?
I'm not looking at it, but I know everything is written into that overall fee that you have in the agenda. There's no additional costs that will be part of it. That is probably the time
Well, because Kayla would bust me here, but I forgot my earplugs tonight. I have a hard time hearing, but that's my fault. And then the M and V, measurements and verification. Does somebody come in at the end when these are all installed and more or less calibrate them and show you how to work them? And
There's a lot of commissioning, and it all has to do with the energy. They have certain criteria they have to meet for the energy savings. And it's not like Avis Elementary is a good example. We started that commissioning through the winter months, so we have to maintain a temperature of the building. It's not like we turned the thermostat down to 65 to meet the criteria. Everything stayed exactly where it needed to be as far as to keep the building maintained heat-wise. And I haven't seen whether those numbers worked out or not, but I mean, they should at the end of the project. But there's the commissioning and the whole process of when they start, when they finish. There's quite a bit of numbers that get pushed into that to get all that information, to get a savings. And then we obviously get a payback from that at some point.
right, so that's part of the installation cost. All that is included. There's a lot included in those costs.
Correct.
$1,000 rebate, $20,000 rebate. We do constant measurement verification.
Yeah, just to add to that, like we provide our bill from the gas company, our bill from the electric company, so they know what their baseline is, and they can kind of go from there to see what we've saved. And that's all based on obviously outdoor air temperatures, and if it's really cold outside, then you're obviously going to be spending more money on gas, but it's real data that's being equated into it.
Okay, one last one. In other words, once these are all installed, then you have, quite logical, have somebody come in and start them up and test them. That's your part to do that.
Commissioning and balance.
Make sure they're going workable and ready. Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
Oh,
All right, Mark. Quick question, when were the unit ventilators installed?
2000.
2000? And what's the expected lifespan of the new ones?
20.
Does the board have any other questions for Mr. Wall?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Hi. Mr. Wall, I missed the beginning of what you were saying, or you may have already covered this, and if you did, I apologize. For the gym floor, are we looking at replacing and also refinishing? The cost of the difference between the two, like the possibilities?
At the beginning, I think we were leaning more towards, we were gonna really try to refinish the floor, but after looking at it, I think 2 or 3 more times after that, there's a very good chance that I don't think we would want to refinish it at this point. It would obviously be cheaper to refinish it if we could, but the age of the floor, I don't think that we would have that opportunity to do that.
Okay, and that's for you looking at it, and
And you
or, like, how do you determine, like, how do you come up with them? How is that determined?
Well, the thickness of the floor, how many times it's been sanded down. The tongue and groove floor can only be sanded down so many times to where it's thin enough to where there's not enough wood left to it.
Okay.
And the contract that I kind of went out on my own and got a quote from a company that I haven't worked with in the past, but I'm going to be for the other schools. They gave me a quote to refinish it, but also in their quote is a caveat that says, if we do get started and we run into nails that are holding the floor down, And at that point, they can't go any further with it.
Right. Thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jesse. Any other questions for Mr. Wall? Thank you so much. I just want to let you know, the board is very appreciative of all of your time and effort that it's taken. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I have a motion and a second, so if I hear nothing further, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Moving on to finance. Items to approve, A through E. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Make the motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
I'd just like to let the board know, item B, that was the original amount that was a part of the settlement, so nothing has been spent out of that settlement. Nothing was spent out of the settlement. So
I just have one, maybe Mr. Enders, you please explain. If you read the amendment to the resolution here, it says that we are going after one or more series general obligation bonds in the amount of $12 million. And if the rate, if you look at the table and stuff, it's like 5.5%. We talked about 10 million and maybe around 4%. Could you explain how that's working out for us, why those numbers are there, please, so the public?
So if you remember the last meeting, Melissa Hughes was here to do the presentation on the financing. Her last part of that presentation, she let the board know when you get this parameters resolution, it will be more than the $10 million. What that will allow bond counsel to do, the financial consultants, PFM to do, is they'll be able to select the bonds that they want to get our debt portfolio, what we call flat funded, where they're basically equal out the payments year over year. That's this first step. And regarding the rates, this is a parameters resolution. The 5.5% is not the rate that you're approving. That is the top of the parameter. At right now, they are projecting the rates to come in around 4%. The presentation that you received last week showed rates, the last meeting showed rates about 4%. It's just a parameters resolution that they had to put in there to cover themselves.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, under miscellaneous, items to approve, A through C. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. There is nothing under old business. Next, we will have courtesy of the floor.
Could I bring something up under old business or not?
Not this time, no. We're going to just open it up to courtesy of the floor.
Can I request an executive session after the meeting then?
Absolutely. I'll need a reason for the record.
Well, I got a couple of them. But,
Just one will do.
all right, so let's just say, projected cost savings. Buildings and grounds.
Yeah, that wouldn't technically be qualified for an executive session.
Then how can you deny him bringing up something under old business when the solicitor said yes?
That's why you have it.
All right? If you would like to have that particular discussion, as long as it's not like
I just
safety or
want to know why I
personnel.
wasn't allowed to start with. What was your reasoning for not letting me say anything? Was there a reason
Yeah, typically, I have asked
that you get an email?
that you present it correct to the board
All right.
prior to, just so the board is aware that someone wants to discuss something, because if it is something of the past, a lot of times, we need to kind of, take out old information so that we're prepared to have a discussion on something that somebody would like to discuss. That's the main reason. But if you would like to have that particular discussion right now, we can before I open it up to courtesy of the floor.
Go ahead. Forget the meeting afterwards.
Okay, so you no longer want an executive session, okay? It'll now be open to courtesy of the floor.
Ray Beerley, Pyatt Township. I find this whole exchange right here problematic and troublesome. Mr. Allen is my representative. He represents me. And if he has concerns about board business, I would like to know what those concerns are. And the fact that you're saying board members, in order to speak, have to email you first to kind of get permission? Is that what you're saying? Where's that in board policy? These people are our elected representatives. They're here to represent our interests, and to muzzle them and to tell them when and how they can speak and not speak, that's unbelievable. What kind of a operation is this board running? You have policies for communication, you have policies for transparency, you have policies that say that board members do not conduct business outside of the boardroom. That executive sessions, for example, personnel or legal, you don't even follow Supreme Court rulings that say you have to identify the specific reason, the specific legal purpose that you're discussing, the case that you have to tell more information, and you don't do that. And the fact that you're not going to let a board member speak, this is shocking. What is going on? What happened to the First Amendment right to free speech? There's a problem, and somebody needs to address it. Y'all sit there, as usual.
All right. Well, that'll conclude tonight's meeting. The meeting's adjourned.